So as you can see, we're back with Windows 3.1, and the reason for that is because I want to start going over some of these custom shells that you guys have suggested in previous videos. In this case, we're going to look at Sparta, which was recommended to me by, I'm going to butcher the last name, I'm sure, Chris Dreher left a comment about a shell replacement that he messed around with called Sparta, and I guess there were at least 3 different versions that were named off, Sparta 1.0, 1.2, and 1.5. I have a copy of 1.2 and 1.5 because Chris was very gracious enough to upload copies to the Internet Archive, and even went a step further and got permission from the original author to put a registered copy of 1.2 out there, which is what we're going to play around with today. We'll go over some of the features first of 1.2, run it, see what it looks like, and then we'll switch over to 1.5 and go over some issues that I ran into, my thoughts, and things like that. So stay tuned for another episode of Windows on Wednesday. So everyone's familiar with Program Manager by now, I'm sure, and if not, well, this was what the interface looked like with Windows prior to Windows 95. If you've used Windows 95 and newer, sure, they might look prettier as each version goes up, might look better, maybe a little faster and everything, but for the most part, you got your start menu, your taskbar, and everything else. Well, before that, you had this, just a bunch of icons and things like that. Some people say it looks kind of Mac OS-like. To an extent, I can understand why, because you've got menu bar at the top here, you've got icons and things like that, but this is not the desktop. This is, you can see there's no task launcher whatsoever. It's just the icons get minimized down here and you switch back and forth to them, and that's it. Otherwise, there are no static icons available. There's no right-clicking, context menu, things like that. So while this is a huge improvement over Windows 1 and Windows 2, and definitely over MS-DOS, I guess that might be subjective, but you're still kind of limited to what you can do. So a lot of different companies came up with various different shell enhancements, shell replacements even. Norton Desktop, for example. Xerox had one, I forget the name. I'll overlay it here and I'll put some screenshots as well. But a lot of smaller developers came up with their own little, enhancements and replacements too, one of which is Sparta. And as I mentioned before, I've got a full registered copy over here of 1.2, which is really neat. And I will also leave links below, by the way, to both 1.2 and 1.5. But I figured we'd go over, and see what it is. So about, as you can see right there, it's just a file management application for Windows 3.1. This is version 1.2. I have not found version 1.0 yet, or anything newer than 1.5, if anything did exist after that. But, that's fine. We'll still get an idea of what it's like. The author, Carl Thurrdsen, I'm guessing that's how you pronounce it. And as I said, Chris reached out to Carl. Yes, they have been communicating via email over this time, so that's kind of neat too that he's still responding. So yeah, so Carl gave permission to release 1.2 for free, and there's all the information, although some of the contact information I'm sure is probably outdated by now. So registering it, I mean, you're not going to be registered anymore, but back then you basically, sent money and, a postcard, and you'd get, a full copy back. You've got to request type of disk and things like that. Licensing per computer. Typical stuff for Shareware. So, and then here's the actual license agreement. We're not going to go ahead and go over that, but basically if you just use the Shareware version, you can only use it for 21 days before you need to stop using it. Shareware was mostly on the honor system. Some kept track and would not let you launch the application anymore, or would start putting nags in there, things like that. I wish that the help file actually was a little bit more encompassing, as in like it showed everything, but the only graphical elements that it shows are like some of these buttons, and that's it. But if we click on each item, it'll tell you what it does. The actions menu itself, talks about enabling right mouse button functionality. That only applies to Sparta functions itself. It doesn't just add them to Windows 3.1 in general, nothing with Program Manager and things like that. So pretty much like any other Windows 3.1 app, if it's not already programmed into it, it won't support it. Aliases are kind of neat because basically they're shortcuts. They're just like aliases in Mac OS. Drop and launch basically is just drag and drop. Data file into any application. Application says launch with the data file. So basically what this is if you have a shortcut icon of, let's say, Microsoft Word. You drag a Word document onto it, it'll launch it. Collapse button is basically the minimize all button. it would be equivalent to the Show Desktop button that you now have, I think, starting in Windows 98, and it still exists to this date, even Windows 11. So, Path button is basically just an icon you click on to take you up one folder level. So if you're in the Windows directory, you click on that, take you to C:\/ or your root. So, file associations are just basically based on the Windows association. So whatever you've got in Win.ini, it should honor that. File management, moving files, basically just being able to drag stuff between folders, copying, same thing, deleting. This basically just you drop them to the dustbin, the trash can, the recycle bin, as you would have in modern operating systems. You can rename your files. You can even do Control-R, which is kind of neat because Windows 3.1 doesn't have a whole lot of keyboard shortcuts. I still find myself trying to do things like Control-O to open or Control-S to save, and they don't always respond because it just wasn't a thought at the time. Looks like creating directories, finding files. There is a search application in there. I don't know if it's using the same backend as the search function in File Manager, but it's there. In terms of customization, there's just some basic things here, and that's all under the settings, which we'll look at in a minute. Printer object, I don't have one on here, so it just doesn't work for me. I can't really show you. I can show you the icon. I can't test the functionality. So, but that's basically it. I mean, there's not much to the help file, so that's fine. Let's go ahead and we'll launch it. And I've got it in the SPRTA 12 folder. There we go. And as you see, it adds this up here. And I'm going to create a trash directory. That's interesting, considering it did create one here. I wonder if that's, I didn't get that during testing. And there's a trash can right there. It's interesting. But yeah, as you can see, it takes a second for it to launch the first time because it scans your program manager groups and does some other things behind the scenes there. And as you can also see, it supports CTL 3D because you've got the nice 3D interface here instead of the flat interface that you would normally get. You guys know what it looks like. So we've got this running here. We've got Sparta running just as a standard application. So in this mode, it's basically running as an enhancer, kind of complementing what Windows is currently able to do to minimize File Manager. And this is the desktop here, kind of Mac OS-like, especially with the shortcuts of the different disks. There's the printer one again. You've got a shortcut to the Windows directory, although this one I don't believe is an alias because the font is not in italic. So we've got here a notepad. It's just notepad. You got shortcut to paintbrush. My programs is basically going to be a copy of all the program manager groups that I've got currently. So yours will probably be different. Network. I don't remember. Did I have network? Oh yeah, never mind them. I don't have any networking configured because I don't have a network adapter in this machine. But so yeah, so you got your program manager groups there. You also have a shortcut to them here with this little menu up here, which is working now. Before it wasn't working for me during testing, so I'm not sure if just a glitch, a fluke. It's older software running on old hardware. Who knows? So now there is this order your registered copy here. I already have it registered, so we don't have to worry about that. And again, here's your trash can, which just opens up the task list, interestingly enough. So maybe let's do this here. Let's drag this here and see what happens. It's in the trash can now. Not actually there. Like I said, it worked before, so hard to say what's going on. You can go ahead and do like an open, launch the application. If I had that text document still there, but open that instead. That's going to be similar to like you see in File Manager. If we click on README and go to open, it just opens it up. They also have rename, so if we go to here and go to rename, I'm able to rename an alias. All right, never mind them. Guess that's a one-time thing. Maybe we can rename that if we want. Not going to because I don't want to break any functionality. So, but as you see, there's also a right-click context menu available and a basic file information too. So that's kind of cool. You don't get that by default with Windows 3.1 unless you do it through File Manager. And even then, you still have to go to File and Properties. You can't just right-click. So, neat little shortcut options there. Makes it a little bit more of a modern operating system, which is ironic because a lot of people compare this with Mac OS, and Mac OS did not have a right mouse button. You had to, I think it was hold Control and click or Shift click. It's been a while since I ran Classic Mac, so I don't remember, but you guys probably do. Now, of course, if I go to Options, see, it's got the path there and everything, so it should be there. So I'm not sure why that file isn't there. Like I said, who knows, quirks of old software. Now, if we go to Options, you can go and adjust the font of your shortcuts and your aliases and everything. Right now, it's set to Arial Bold. Let's change that to Courier New. And as you can see, it changed it. If I had the Chicago font installed, it'd look even more Mac OS-like. We can change it to small fonts. Let's go ahead and do that. It's not that different than it was under Arial. So, customizations. As you can see, that's what the help file originally showed. I haven't really played around with this much, so I can't tell you if there's much of a difference or not. To me, I don't know if I would use that functionality. So, and then of course we've got help and about. There's your about screen. Shows you you're running in 386 enhanced mode. That's how much RAM I've got available. System resources, etc., etc. Simple operating system enhancement. Nothing, too fancy. It doesn't add, a clock up here or anything like that. But that's really all there is to it. Let's go ahead and open up the C drive. And as you can see, this is just a list of all the folders in the root. If you were to open up a command prompt, DOS prompt, and just go to the C:// you'd see those folders there. So, but we do have context menus that we can do right-click and open up, so we can change certain things like hiding a folder, making it read-only, marking it as system folder. We can rename it from here. We can open it from here. Opens up in a new window if you do it that way. Of course, if you hit that little icon that I talked about earlier, it takes me back to the parent folder by switching back to it. So this is also similar to how Windows 95 does it by default, as well as Mac OS. So some functionality there, but if I remember, at close parent folder, if you do that, that's where it will close the parent folder and open up a new folder. And if you try to go back one, it does it that way. Do I have anything with subfolders? Let me see. Yeah. So as you can see, you can even skip all the way up straight to the root, which is kind of nice. But it is kind of jarring seeing it, judder like that. I mean, I can understand it not, just refreshing it one folder up. It's an older piece of software, but it'd be nice if at least if it drew the window in the same spot to kind of hide the fact. But again, one developer, not going to complain too much. So other options you have, create directories, you can add another folder. I don't believe this can go above the 8.3 character limit, because this does not have that function. There's no LFN support in there. So we can also close, so it closes that window. I don't have a floppy disk in, nor do I have a CD-ROM. Otherwise, it'd be the same functionality though. And arrange your icons, you can set a filter even, show or hide system files, sort by different attributes, name, size, type, date. By default, it's sorted by type because you want your folders at the top and then you want files at the bottom. Now, Sparta can be set as your default shell. And to do that, you typically go into the Windows directory and you go to system.ini and you change the shell equals from progman.exe to the actual path. Unfortunately, when I tested it last time, now it might work this time, but I'm not going to break it, it's working. When I tested it last time, I could not set it as a default shell. It kept saying that it couldn't find desktop.sys, I believe it was. And I do remember reading in the README file for Sparta that you do have to make sure that the Sparta directory is added to the path in autoexec.bat, and it is, but it still cannot find that file. I'm not sure why. Oh, desktop.dll, that's what it was. Not sure why I couldn't find it, especially since it was launched from that directory. It didn't work, so I can't set it as default shell, unfortunately. Oh, and another option, you got exit windows and exit. Exit is not available if it is your default shell, at least in version 1.5, which we'll show in a second here. But you can also exit windows directly from here. So that's, and it just straight up exit Windows. No prompt saying, hey, we're about to exit, sorry. So back into Windows, and of course Sparta is closed because it's not the default shell, and I did not set up to start up automatically. But because Windows 3.1 remembers your icon positions, what windows you had open, everything, Program Manager launched minimized. So let's maximize it again. And now we'll take a look at version 1.5, which has some significant improvements to it. And like I said, I only have the Shareware version of that, so I didn't bother to create a root folder for it. I just will launch it from here. Again, it's just Sparta.exe. And what's this? This is new. And again, it's going to take a second for it to launch. And I'm able to create a trash directory. Oh, that better not happen. Well, okay, there we go. And yet it did create a trash directory. Look at that. But let's minimize all this so we can get just a Sparta. And as you can see, you've got this launcher up here, and you also have the tool window. And if you think you know what this does, you're probably correct. You can do multiple desktops, although the default desktop is going to have this launcher here. Not going to, let me see if I might minimize that as well. So this is what it looks like when Sparta is minimized, similar to how it looks here. All of your default icons and everything, your minimized applications are going to show up under the tool window. Under the primary tool window. Unless, of course, you minimize it on that screen. So as you can see, no notepad here. Here you've got it. Here again, it's not there. So as you can see, though, there's an extra search icon here, which you can use to find files. I believe this is just the Windows 3.1 search. No, actually, it's different. I take that back. So it's got its own search capability. So you can search the whole disk or only whatever folder you want below, and you can cancel. So if we just do a search for text files, I just canceled that because it's good enough. Here's where all the text files were found, at least until I canceled it. Now if we do just // actually, let me cancel that so we can clear out the results. And let's try this again. No, it's still doing it. So that functionality was probably not properly implemented just yet. So, or maybe it's a limitation of the Shareware version. Not quite sure. But if we go open this up again, it's got your Program Manager groups once again, as well as up here. So, and also here's your hide all. So functions the same. It did move your disk icons up into this launcher here instead of having it here. I don't know if that's more of a space-saving feature, if it was maybe something requested. Now, I believe you should be able to, yeah, so you can drag them right into your little launcher here, but they will no longer be available on the desktop. And I can drag them back though. So, and that's it. There's going to be additional information here because you do have the additional functionality of the multiple desktops, this launcher here, and some other things. So let's go ahead and we'll take a look at the new help file and see what's new. So this is the unregistered version. As you can see, like I said, I don't have a copy of that. That's fine. But let's click on, look at these features. So this is going to be a full feature set as well as the new ones, but I want to see, yeah, so it shows here what the actual new features are, and you can click on individual elements to see what they do. So if you click here, it's a floppy disk icon, yeah, of course. File alias, you can create and drag an original folder on the desktop or quick bar, so you can drag folders on here to create an alias, applications, things like that. And of course, as we saw earlier, you can drag them from the desktop to here and back and forth. Here's what the quick bar is. I call it the launcher, sorry. Quick bar is minimal desktop, drag an icon onto it, alias automatically created. You can hide the quick bar by selecting the show quick bar option in the options menu. We'll try that next, of course. If we click here, the tool window, expand your normal screens by 4 times. Again, multiple desktops there. And you can hide it, it looks like, in the options menu. But again, that's only available if you do it from here. So, hide tool menu, show. Hard disk alias, you can have an alias to your hard drive and give it whatever you want to call it. So they call it my computer. There's that. And then of course you still have your trash can. Files, folders, alias can be dropped for easy deletion. Wish to make it delete instead of storing them. We saw that option as under 1.2. And of course, aliases are always deleted. So if you have a shortcut to something and you don't want to lose it, be careful. So let's go ahead and go back to the contents here. Well, most common questions answered. How do you make the default shell? I explained that earlier, and here it said to make sure that the path specified. It says path doesn't exceed 128 characters. Maybe mine does, and that's why it didn't work with 1.2. But then again, I tested it with 1.5 and it did, so not quite sure what to make of that. Sparta doesn't remember my chosen font or aliases. They're stored in Sparta INI, Sparta.dsk. Make sure directory isn't full right protected. Sparta crashes. Make sure desktop DLL is either the path or Windows directory. Excel flashes while running Sparta. I like this one here. This is caused by a conflict between Excel and Sparta. Microsoft are aware of the problem and are hopefully working on it. How much from the bet they didn't do it? I don't have this version of Excel to test. I don't even know which version of Excel it is, so. Icons don't respond. Again, defending one once with the left button and then try again. So basically select it and then try double clicking. Let us Sparta convert all the program manager group items. Former group items point to the same file, only the first will be created. Sparta V files are there for every folder you open up because it stores information in that file, Sparta specific information. So, and then it tells you if you want to uninstall it, you got to just delete all this stuff here. Nothing earth-shattering. Look at these features. So shortcut down here. Again, copying, renaming, moving, duplicating, network support. That's interesting, but it's grayed out, so it doesn't have any help information tied to it. But everything else is basically the same. However, we do have the additional features with the virtual desktop, quick bar, quick launch. There's also quick search and things like that. Plus, there's much, much more. Aliases, again, we already know what this is about. Virtual desktop tool window. We kind of know what that is too because we already clicked on that information. Quick bar, we know about that. Let's go to quick launch. So there's a menu of folders under the My Programs folder. Folders automatically created through Program Manager Group. So that's going to be the same as this here, which we kind of know about. Quick search, activate search. You can select search from the application menu, double click on the quick search icon on the desktop. Again, it's just search functionality. Program Manager Groups, you can see what it does with it there. We already know that. Password protection is another new feature. Allows your password protects following items, folders, drives, quick bar, and searching. This is not high security protection because everything has to be open through DOS, but it kind of still hides things to an extent. So if someone is not very super computer literate, or if you can lock the system down from being able to launch DOS or WinFile, which is File Manager, then you can probably get it to somewhat of a secure system, but it's still not going to be super secure. It's not going to be that different than Windows 95's password feature where you can just hit escape, still get into the desktop, and still search for files and things like that. So, customization. So there's a few additional options from before where they basically add the password feature to the quick bar and a search feature. Everything else is pretty much the same. So let's go back, and in terms of the help, that's basically it. I mean, not much to it. So now because I can make this into the permanent shell, let's go ahead and do that. Rem that out, save. And now we will exit Sparta and we'll properly shut down Windows and see Program Manager, hopefully for the last time in this video. And there we go. By default, it just launches right into Sparta. There's no Program Manager or anything like that. So you can use it as a shell replacement or just as a shell enhancement. And if we look at File, exit's grayed out because you can't exit your shell, of course, because then your computer would break. Well, Windows would break because you wouldn't have any way to get out of it without forcing a restart, which could cause file corruption and things like that, at least within Windows, if it didn't save any of their settings or anything. Again, this is what you're going to see, and you can go ahead and create your own aliases and things like that. Let's go ahead and open up the Windows directory here, and let's create an alias to the character map. And then, of course, we can info, and we can give it a name. We'll call it, and there we go. And it just launches the character map. It's available on the other desktops as well. And speaking of desktops, you can name it, so we can just call this one, I don't know, temp. Not sol. It's also limited to only 8 characters, so they call it not sol. I'll call this one Excel, not that I have it, so I can trick the boss, into thinking that I'm actually doing work. So there's that. Here it is as a shell replacement. Let's go ahead and, oh, this time it opens up too, so that's cool. Let's see, do I have anything that I can get rid of? No, we'll get rid of the Shareware copy of README Now. No, we're going to do it this, or we're going to do it the way they suggested. README Now, trash can. And now, as you see, the trash can is nice and plump down here because it's full. You fed it. Let's go ahead then, and too bad there's no way to launch applications from here. That'd be kind of neat. Let's go ahead and we'll go here, and we will launch File Manager. And if this works correctly, we should be able to go here. And look at that. There it is, README Now. Open it back up. Oh, that's because I had a different folder open. Open it back up, there's README Now. Unlike the functionality in macOS and Windows 95, where if you delete something and it goes to the trash can or recycle bin, you can't launch it. You can look at properties and you can permanently delete it, or you can restore it. Here, it seems you can launch it because it's just a folder. And to restore it, you just have to kind of drag it back out of there, I suppose. Especially since I don't think there's, see, I can't even get the info to pull up now. Oh, there we go. So you can empty it. Here's your default options, of course, for saving or deleting. We're going to go ahead and just empty the trash can. Did it empty? It did. And the icon did clear back again. So there you go. The trash can does work. And as you can see in the folder here, it's gone from here. And that's basically it. I mean, it gives you some additional functionality that Windows 3.1 did not have, such as being able to utilize the desktop more efficiently, creating aliases like this. I mean, you can have shortcuts to applications. That's basically what Program Manager is. It's just, one giant shortcut, but it's not quite as intuitive. But again, Sparta lets you utilize the desktop. It gives you a trash can functionality, which again, you could recreate manually, as we saw, but it wasn't quite as simple. It's basic. It's not going to give you a lot of the same functionality as any of the commercial ones do. So, you're not going to have that functionality. You're not going to have long file name support, but it does expand it a little bit for you. So, not the best demonstration of this software. I didn't do a deep dive into how its inner workings or anything like that. I'm just using this as if I were any other regular user out there using software. There's not much else to really go over. So, if you guys want me to try to do a deeper dive into it, I would. If there was more of a manual, but like I said, the only manual we really have is the help here, and it pretty much covers all the features. Do I find it useful? Not really. It's not to say that it doesn't have its usefulness. There'll be people out there that would love that functionality back in the day, especially if you couldn't afford Windows 95, couldn't afford a computer that could run Windows 95, didn't have access to a Mac, things like that. So just having some basic functionality added to Windows is, nice. The tool window feature, being able to do multiple desktops, even Windows 95 couldn't do that officially. You had to rely on third-party tools and things like that. I think Windows XP kind of sort of had it official. Microsoft had a PowerToy available for it, but even that was an additional download. It wasn't something that was just part of the operating system. So just having this functionality, nice feature. Even macOS didn't have this until you got to macOS 10. This was pretty much Linux and probably a couple other operating systems out there that I am very unfamiliar with, so I'm not going to talk about them. But yeah, I mean, what did you guys think? Did you guys use Sparta? I mean, I know, Chris, you did. So I know you were fascinated with it, and I'm sure other people were too. Yeah, but if you want to give it a try, I will leave the links below to the archive.org website with version 1.2 and version 1.5 out there, and you guys can give it a try yourself. If you guys want me to revisit this in the future because there's something that I didn't go over that you really want to see, let me know about it. And if there's any newer versions of 1.5, please upload that to the Internet Archive if you are willing to, and then leave a comment below. You can't post links, unfortunately, because YouTube doesn't like links, and I'm okay with that, with all the spam that's out there. that's fine. But just let us know that, hey, I left a version of 1.8 out there. Just do a search for Sparta 1.8 or whatever, and we'll give it a look. So thanks all. I'll catch you later.